Great goals do not determine great outcomes. Think of it like this. At the start of a race in the Olympics, it's every athlete's goal to win the race. But what determines who comes in first place? It's not the goal, since they all have the same goal. That comes down to their systems, their habits, and their standards. The fact is we do not rise to the level of our goals, but we will always fall to the level of our standards. Now, don't get me wrong, goals are important. It's important to spend time understanding what our goals are on a daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly basis, and they provide a North Star. They're a guiding direction for us. But the mechanism and the vehicle that will get us and drive us forward and propel us into those goals are the systems, habits, and standards that we hold into our life. And this is the missing link more times than not when people spend time, especially around New Year's, setting resolutions, setting goals, but never putting a second thought into the action it will actually take, the sacrifice it will take, the habits it will take to actually reach those goals. So again, setting smart goals, having that vision, having that North Star is important, but we also need that vehicle so that we continue to make forward progress and we can continue to have momentum moving forward. Think of it like a GPS. Our goal is putting a destination into the GPS. But if we don't have a vehicle to get into, we're not going to get that to that destination, or we're going to have to walk there, and it's going to take a heck of a lot longer. So that's why it's so important to not just focus on the goals. Yes, it's important to vision and to understand the goals that we have, but it's even more important to understand the systems that we can put into place and who we have to become to actually get there. Because the truth is, someone with worse goals can have a better outcome than someone with better goals if they have better systems and a better understanding of who they have to be along the process. And that really is at the core of it. Who do you have to be? Creating an identity around the systems that you're putting in place to move forward and to reach these goals. And to give you an idea about understanding who you have to be, this is all about identity. And this is something we see very heavily in people that sometimes are trying to quit habits, say, quit smoking, quit drinking. Sometimes it's people that are looking to lose weight. They have the goal of, say, quitting smoking. But when you talk to people who have successfully quit, they didn't just say, I'm going to quit, and then just did it. They actually had to create a new identity around not being a smoker. They had to surround themselves sometimes with different people. They had to take different actions. They had to put themselves in different circumstances to allow them to become the person that doesn't smoke, or that makes the better food choices, or that doesn't drink. And this can be challenging. A lot of times it can feel like things are falling around and you don't have the comfort of who you are and the things that you're used to doing. But the fact is, if we do what we've always done, we're going to get the results we've always gotten. Our results and where we are today in all areas of life are just a sum of our daily routines and our daily habits and our daily way of interacting with the world. There's no way around that, good, bad, or indifferent. And that's a great thing. That means that we can raise awareness into these areas and we can understand what are the things that I'm doing on a day-to-day basis. And is this a vote for the person that I want to become? Or is this a vote for the person that I've always been? In some ways, maybe there are character traits or there are things that you want to keep and that are positively fueling your future. Then that's great. But the important thing is to audit. Take a look at your goals. Take a look at where they're taking you and begin to unravel and unfold what is the person who has achieved that goal? What do they do on a daily, consistent basis? Because achieving goals, especially the really big ones, it's not about just massive action. As a matter of fact, more times than not, when you talk to people in any successful field, you'll find out it's in the details. It's in the monotonous daily actions that really accrue over time. Yes, it takes massive action to do things, and you're going to be having to step out of your comfort zone. But in reality, it's the small incremental progress that adds up over time. And before you know it, you're a completely different person. You go to the gym for a day, you won't recognize anything. You go to the gym for a week, You might feel a little better, but you're not really going to see much in the mirror. Now you stack that up over a month. Now you're starting to see some changes. Maybe your pants fit a little differently. You stack that up over 6 months. Now there's a big transformation. Your body looks way different. You feel way different. And now you stack it up over a year. You could be a completely different person. There could be a complete transformation. But in that moment, in those day to day grinds of going into the gym and showing up day in and day out and not always feeling the progress, not always feeling your best, it can be challenging in those moments, but that is where the groundwork is laid. It's in those small incremental steps that allow us to take the bigger chunks, especially over these bigger and more long-term goals. And this is a really foundational way to look at this. And the identity is at the core of it. What kind of person does it take to reach the goals that you want to reach? And also understanding like what is the velocity of your goal, right? Say you're into running and you want to do a 5K. Is your goal for the 5K to just finish the race? Is it for you to try to get on the podium? Is it to get a personal best? These are all three very admirable goals that will require three different levels of dedication, of training, and one's not better than the other. It's just understanding for this particular goal, how important is it to me? What am I willing to sacrifice? What's it going to take to attain that? And can I give the level of dedication, sacrifice, and time to reasonably get to the goal that I'm looking to achieve? And looking at it systematically and being very honest with yourself in the process can really help in so many ways, because our mind and our body is always feeding off of this feedback loop as we're going to reach and attain goals. Our motivation is dependent on it. Dopamine, this is the neurotransmitter in the brain, and this plays a huge role in our motivation and how we feel about our attainment of goals and our ability to have the energy to keep putting forward. And if we're not taking the time, or if we have these goals that maybe it takes more than we're able to put into it, and we start to get a negative feedback loop and we're not getting the results that we want and it's frustrating, well, then we're going to have a harder time to continue to show up for it. And then if we stop, then we can create even more of a negative feedback loop. So this is so important to bring honesty and awareness into this process, and understanding these systems that we can put in place to really create a foundation and an identity that makes success inevitable. Because if we can learn to really truly love the process as we're going through it and really appreciate who we're becoming in the process, then nothing can break that. Because at the end of the day, the greatest thing that I've learned of all the things that I go to achieve in the triathlons and the running, race day is amazing, getting the medals, crossing the finish line, but all of those external things pale in comparison to me being able to reflect on who I was able to become in the process, being able to become the person that can do a 5 hour run or a 5 hour training session, being able to be the person that can wake up at 5 a.m. and do a long run because I prioritized it and I had other things to do in the day, being the person that can prioritize going to bed at a good time so I wake up feeling good and rejuvenated and able to tackle the next day. Like, these are the things that really drive and fuel me and motivate me moving forward. Yes, the goals are great, attaining the goals are great, but there's something that happens after we achieve a goal, especially if it's a really great goal. We have a drop off. There's this climax of our dopamine and our feel good and our motivation. Everything rises and we feel on top of the world. But what comes up must come down. And afterwards, there could be those post-race depression or post-goal depression where, we spent all this time and energy and did so much work to get to this point, and then we get it, and then it's just that journey is over with. But if you can see the journey as a never-ending evolution, if this is something that's constantly moving forward and you're constantly evolving and constantly looking forward to the person that you're continually evolving into, then that changes the game. That changes your ability to have consistency, changes your ability to have motivation. And remember, motivation is going to come and go. It ebbs and flows, and we cannot rely purely on motivation. That's why the systems, the habits, the practices, and the standards that we hold for ourselves are of the utmost importance above all else. Because some days we're going to feel motivated, some days we're not. Some days we're going to feel great, some days we're not. But if we have systems in place, and if we create the identity of the person that shows up no matter what, then you have the foundation to do whatever it's going to take to reach that finish line or reach that goal with flying colors. So take a minute to think about it. Think a bit about your goals. Think about the version of you that has already attained those goals. What does that version of you do? What does that version of you talk about? Think about? What does that version of you listen to and read? What do they do on a daily basis? If you could begin to answer those questions and then take a moment and bring awareness into the habits that you're taking part in right now, and begin to notice the misalignments, notice the areas in which they are not congruent into what you want to build into the future, and then begin to make those small shifts, that is the blueprint to creating the version of you that you want to become. And it truly is about small incremental steps. It's not about finding a list of 20 things and changing all of these things overnight. And quite frankly, that's actually one of the most damaging ways to do it. And one of the ways that can cause the most disruption and really cause it to fall apart at the seams. I've done this time and time again where I've wanted to get all motivated and change all these habits. And I tried to change 10 things at once. And what happened was maybe I stuck with it for a day, 3 days, a week, and then I reverted everything back to old habits because I tried to change too much at once. It's about small incremental changes. It's about having grace in the process and just continuing to bring awareness. We're not trying to berate ourselves. We're not trying to judge ourselves or grade ourselves. We're bringing a gentle awareness into who we are, the things that we're doing, and asking ourselves, is what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis, is this facilitating where I want to go? And if it's not, how can we gently change that? And then if it is, then how can we continue to do that? Or how can we make that even easier to do? What accountability can I bring into the process? This is a process that I do on a week to week, month to month, and certainly a yearly basis. Every week, setting out my goals for the week, taking a look at the habits of the prior week, what worked for me, what didn't work so well, because this is another thing. This is going to continually evolve in your life. You're never going to come up with a set of habits or routines and that's it. You found the magic routine and that's it forever. This goes through seasons, and I've experienced many seasons in my life. My routine from month to month, and especially year to year, look vastly different. Sometimes mornings can be dedicated to work. Sometimes mornings are dedicated to fitness. Sometimes to meditation. Depending on the season, depending on what's going on in my life and with work and with clients, it's going to vastly differ. So that's why it's important to continually have a pulse on where you're at with your habits, where you are with how you're spending your days, and is there resistance points? Are there areas where you can create a little less resistance to the things you want to be doing and a little more resistance into the things that you don't want to be doing, you're looking to let go of? And this is such an important part of the process, and I promise it will be game changing for you. It's different than getting just locked in to a daily routine that's just written out, and these are the things that I just have to do, and there's just rigidity, there's no fluidness, there's no malleability to be able to really adjust for the season, the time, and the days in your life. I promise you, if you take this on, if you take the opportunity to first understand where you're going, then understand the version of you that's already attained that, what they do, and the habits they partake in on a regular basis, and then forward think and backwards plan. Look at yourself now, analyze, look at the things you're doing, and ask yourself, is this facilitating my future? Is this facilitating the things that I say I want? And then from there, begin to make the small incremental changes. This is something that has completely changed my life. And this is really at the foundation I do with all of my clients and my athletes that I work with. And it's a simple process that's rinse and repeat. It works in every single area of life: finances, relationships, fitness, whatever area of life that you want to vision forward, that you feel like you want to make forward progress and you have a vision for. We look into the future, understand the habits that will get you to the goals, come back, look at where we are now, look at the habits we currently have, create the least resistance for the habits that we want, create the most resistance for the habits that we don't want, and then we have some accountability along the way. If you do that simple process over and over again and you have a system to do it on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis, I promise you, whatever it is you want, you'll be able to attain. So I'll leave you with this. One action item from today is to take a look. Take a look maybe at the goals that you have. If you don't have any goals, maybe set a goal for the next week, month, 6 months, and then ask yourself the question, what does the version of me do that's already attained that goal? What are the habits? What's their sleep look like? What are they eating? What are they doing? And then take a moment and write down the habits that you do every day. I wake up, I brush my teeth, I go on my phone, I have my coffee, I eat a bagel. Just write down one day. And then next to each item, you can have a plus sign if it's a positive thing supporting where you want to go. You can have a neutral if it's a neutral item. And then you can have a negative sign if it's something that's not supporting the version of you that you want to be. This simple exercise will raise your awareness, will allow you to see more clearly into the things in your life right now that may be holding you back from the version of you that you wish to become, while also creating clarity around who you want to be in the future. So do this exercise. I promise it'll bring clarity. And if you can create a system to implement this on a regular basis, you're going to get so far and reach any goal that you set out to do, so far as you believe it and you continue to implement the systems and standards to allow you to keep moving forward. Thank you for joining me today. Again, great goals do not equate to great outcomes. Focus on the systems, focus on the habits, focus on the standards, and you can evolve to be any version of you that you wish to become.